Hey, ladies and gents, and welcome to the Controlled Interest Gamecast, where we talk about video games and everything happening in the industry. I'm your host, Jerrad Wyche. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Dominic Orlando.
It's 2023. It's time to roll, Jerrad. Let's go. A new year. Fresh start.
Yeah, our first episode of the new year. We're back in the saddle again. The last episode we did was the Game Awards predictions, which was about a month or so ago. So this week, we're going to be covering our predictions for that and see how well we did, but the entire year of 2022 as well. Pretty interesting stuff when I was going over it and marking scores and stuff like that. One thing I did want to note is if anybody who listened to last year's predictions remembers Chris Noons, aka Topher Noons, friend of the show, being on and doing his predictions, wasn't able to make it this time around, so we're not going to really tabulate his scores or do anything like that. So it's really just between the two of us, Dom, you and I. And before we hop into all that stuff, I wanted to go over a couple of things, not anything serious, so that I just get back into the groove. In terms of getting us hyped up for next year. By the way, next week we're going to be doing our Fantasy Critics League draft, going over last year's results and seeing what our new teams look like, as well as doing our predictions for 2023. So look forward to that. But the two things I have are basically, what was it? It was this weird, not weird. Xbox did this thread. They said, new year, new games coming to Xbox Game Pass. Check out just some of the games coming this year. Now, this is cool because A, it gets people hyped for what's coming, but B, when you see a lot of this stuff, and these are just the known quantities, it's pretty exciting. So this thread has images that are attached with each tweet. The first one is Starfield, kind of doubling down and confirming Starfield's coming. There was also on the support website for Starfield that said it's coming in the first half of 2023, which isn't necessarily surprising, but with video games, you never know if things are going to get pushed or not, so it's nice for them to kind of double down, right, Dom? Like, man, if we have a first half of this year, Dom, where we can play Tears of the Kingdom and Starfield, I'll be a happy man. Just do those two games alone. It will satiate me enough.
Yeah, that and I think it tempers the expectations. Some of us might have thought that it was still going to happen in the March timeframe or April. Now I'm thinking more likely it's towards the end of that first half statement, if I had to bet.
Yeah, and speaking of release dates, the second one on this thread, they said, did someone say Vampire Hunting with Friends? And it's a picture of Redfall. And this one is also targeted for the first half of this year. And I know some people are worried there's no way they'd release these games next to each other. I don't think Xbox cares in terms of these two games because they're totally different. One's a persistent online game. You can play single player, but it's pretty much multiplayer focused, right? And the other one is a single player Bethesda RPG. They're not going to cannibalize each other. And also, Redfall is the type of game that you want to get out as soon as possible because it's a living game where they can update it, they can tweak it, they can add content. So, yeah, I don't think it's shocking, right, that these two can come out maybe May, June, back-to-back months, right? I don't think that hurt either of them, really.
And that's a huge window. It's not like what they're saying they're going to be in the same week, which that would probably be odd. But, yeah, they're probably a month apart or something like that is no big deal.
True. Next up, if you like driving, just wait until you simulate it. Forza Motorsport, remember, it's kind of like a soft reboot of the series. They're not going to 8. They're just cutting off the number, which I think is smart for some franchises, especially racing, because they're niche enough that you don't want to make the niche audience even more niche, right, by adding numbers and numbers and numbers to the end of them, counting up.
Yeah, and this is always an interesting one to me, especially compared to, not Motorsport, Horizon. Because, like, how much... Like there's like this would be the 8th game. Like, how much can you really innovate and change the mechanics of the game year to year? I guess you can continue to make it look prettier, but I don't even know how they can do that anymore. It already looks so good. Horizon too, but yeah, I'm kind of curious about this. I mean, these aren't my type of games, but I'm curious of what this looks like, and is this a situation where this is the last Forza Motorsport and it just gets big updates, every other year kind of a situation. So I am kind of curious to see that. I'm not going to play the game, but I'm interested.
Oh, that's a good call. And that would make sense of them removing the number 2 where it's just a platform instead of an annual, well, not annual, but a numbered release. Yeah, the thing too is this is the first Motorsport coming out on the new hardware. So they can totally tout it looks better, runs better, all that stuff. You can see a drop of rain on the window or something. Next up, this game I'm cautiously optimistic for. They say it's up to you to unite the overworld. Minecraft Legends. Very interesting stuff. This is the RTS, the Minecraft RTS. Normally, I would be hard out on this, but from the fun I had with Minecraft Dungeons, I'm willing to take on Minecraft in a new genre because I totally had a blast with that Diablo clone. And playing Minecraft as long as I did, I'm familiar with the world, so it's one of those things where you can hop into a genre you don't normally play, but since you're familiar with all the parts of it, you're more interested in at least checking it out. So I'm I'm interested to see if this hits on that same Minecraft Dungeons thing, or if maybe it is more of a dud. We'll see.
Yeah, I forgot about Minecraft Dungeons. You did talk about that. So yeah, I guess it makes sense. This is another one, not going to be for me, but it's cool to see them expand what they're doing with that IP that they bought for a lot of money. So
Yeah, don't talk about the person who created it anymore. Not a good person. Next up, well, the thing too is it doesn't matter if you're fully interested in it or not too, which is a cool thing, Don, because it's Game Pass, right? So even if you wanted to check it out, you have
sure.
an easier entry to check it out if that's the case. Next up, a game that my friends are totally excited for just because of the antics you can get to. Because Gang Beasts, the smaller indie title that does a similar thing, has a lot of online issues with its servers. Party Animals. This is essentially Gang Beasts, but with furry animal costumes. Differentiating game modes. They have weapons. Looks super adorable. I love the comedy tone of the trailers they have. People have been waiting for this game for a long time, kind of how people were waiting for Gang Beasts for a long time. Once again, I think this is a dope Game Pass title because these multiplayer games that people can just hop into, it's easier to convince my friends to download something off of Game Pass, a service that they're already paying for, Dom, than be like, hey, are we getting the new annualized sports game, or are we getting the new Call of Duty, or you know what I mean? So having multiplayer games you can hop in with your friends, especially with stuff like the cloud where you don't even have to download it most of the time, super cool. Next up. This one, I think, can go numerous different ways, Dom, and that's Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people in the current console space probably have never played the original Stalker because it was a huge PC title. But the first trailer we got for this looked really cool, looked eerie, reminded me a lot of the Metro series. I'm curious to see how hardcore this game is because I know that's one thing that people fell in love with the original is its hardcore aspects. I wonder if they lean more general because they want to turn this into a bigger franchise. Xbox is behind this in a major way too. I'm very interested and I want to see more because outside of that original trailer, it went dark. And then I think a couple of days ago, we got finally a brand new trailer doubling down on it coming out relatively soon. Do you have any interest in Stalker 2? Do you remember that trailer when it debuted at the Xbox showcase?
Yeah, and I remember thinking kind of the same thing as you of like, I'm not super familiar with this franchise. I'm pretty sure it's like a more of a niche PC kind of franchise, but yeah, the trailer was like seemed like it would be my kind of game, like kind of a survival, almost survival horror type of vibe. But yeah, you're right, but it did feel a bit like Metro. If I'm remembering back, I'm gonna have to watch the trailer again now to remind myself. But yeah, I'm kind of like maybe we'll see. But again, just like everything else, if it's on Game Pass and enough people say it's worth downloading, then why not give it a try?
Also, first-person shooters in a genre you normally dig, so
Yeah,
that's good too. It's going to be one of those trailers I go back and watch during Fantasy Critically research when I get my prospects together and get going. Next up, it's a bummer it's coming this late, but at least it's coming to the platform. It's Monster Hunter Rise. Obviously, people like that. Still waiting for Monster Hunter World 2. Any day, Capcom, please. Next up, this is one that I think I'm at the very least hoping it's a Swimming in Sevens, Dom, because I think it's so weird in the best ways. That's Atomic Heart. I hope this game is at least fun and it's not a pile of garbo. Very weird Russian first-person shooter. How else would you explain this, Dom? It's a very weird game in the best ways. It's like Control without the supernatural stuff in Russia, I think is the best. It has that weird vibe to it.
something about it felt like a little Bioshocky to me too, like a little bit
True,
of that,
true. Yeah.
the weirdness, like it's a weird world and it just is everything's a little over the top sort of a thing. There was some, I think it's newer footage of gameplay that I just watched it the other day. Maybe it had been out for a while already, but it looked really cool. And this was one, I think it was me that picked it on this year's Fantasy Critic, and then obviously never ended up coming out. So yeah, this one I'm more interested in than everything else so far, except for Starfield, of course. But yeah, this has my attention for sure.
Next up, we have Arc 2, which neither of us are interested in. Shout out Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
But these next three I'm going to talk about are four. Both of us have vested interest in, or at least three of them. The first one I'm going to talk about is the Lovecraftian 2D platforming game, The Last Case of Benedict Fox. Do you remember this? We saw this at the recent Xbox showcase. It's very much Sherlock Holmes with Lovecraftian elements to it. Beautiful art style. Totally in my wheelhouse. Obviously, it's not the same setting or anything as Ori, but to me, it feels the same vibe in that it's a 2D platforming game that Xbox is fully behind and maybe can turn into a small franchise of sorts. Looks really cool. I'm assuming you're watching footage now. Does it look familiar? Do you remember it now? At all?
Getting through an ad.
Oh, okay. It
You're
was
right.
very surprising. Yeah.
Because yeah, it's 2D side scrolling, but really it's more like it's 3D. You're just side scrolling. It looks very graphically demanding side scrolling, I guess. Kind of like, and then yeah, like the color palette is almost like Ori. The way things kind of, not the palette,
the
but
parallaxing backgrounds. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Excited for it. I know that's a genre you like, but obviously not something you're as. I think maybe I am a little bit more invested in that genre than you are, but it looks beautiful, and hopefully it's as good as it looks. Next up, though, we have some things in both of our wheelhouse. Liza P, which is the weird Pinocchio Souls-like, which shouldn't look as good as it does, but it does. Do you have anything to say about this game?
This was the one that gave a lot of Bloodborne vibes, or at least maybe could scratch that itch, even if just a little bit. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one too.
It has no reason to look that good with its premise, but man, does it look so good. I love the enemy design too that we've seen. Very cool. That plays in the world of Pinocchio. The way they handled Jiminy Cricket in it too is so dope. Next up, this is a game that had a demo that people loved, also a Souls-like. I didn't get a chance to play it, but I know people really liked it. As Wolong Fallen Dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you play the demo by chance?
I never played the demo. I watched a good bit of gameplay. There's some more that came out either today or yesterday, and it basically looks like a better looking Neo, which absolutely go for that like all day. And of course it's actually on Xbox, which is great, and then Game Pass, which is even better. So yeah, this is I still need to get back to playing Neo too. Cause that's been
this isn't Team Ninja as well, right? Wolong is Team Ninja.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, same developer, and you can tell like the way it the way it looks, the way it handles. Just basically, it's definitely the same engine or something. Like they just kind of continued on from what they did with Neo, even down to the pace of the combat, like all the different stances and variations of that, and the way the numbers come off, almost like Destiny when you hit enemies and all that kind of stuff. I'm imagining it's also just as difficult as the Neo game. So yeah, this is cool. I'm glad that people on Xbox are gonna finally get a taste of that specific subgenre of Souls.
Good point.
Souls-like.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people get this confused too with that Wukong game. That's also like a third-person action adventure.
Where you're like a mouse in that one, right? Or a rat.
No, you're Wukong, who's like the Monkey King, from
Monkey.
Journey to the West. Yeah. Last up,
Jeez.
Hollow Knight Silksong. Don't have to really wax poetic about this. People know how you and I feel about this upcoming game. It's just good to see that they're also doubling down again. Xbox saying it's coming out, and obviously I think I'm confident, Dom, that by the end of March, through either a Nintendo Direct or an Xbox presentation, because I think that's one thing people are forgetting is I really think we do get some kind of Xbox presentation in the first 3 months because we have all these undated games, and if they're going to be coming out in the first half of the year, I think they're going to want to do something. So I think we're going to get the Hollow Knight Silksong date at one of those two things, and I think both those are guaranteed, at least in maybe the first 3 months of the year. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Because even so many of the things we already just talked about are, like you said, in the first half we already know that much. So it's not like we can wait till the E3 timeframe to get release dates.
Exactly.
So there's got to be some, and maybe some of them will be announced, on blog posts or trailers or that aren't aligned to it.
Don't do the PlayStation thing with Spider-Man, please.
Yeah, maybe some of them, maybe some of the smaller ones or things like that. They might split it out, but I still would expect some kind of, more structured Xbox event of some sort. In the next, I'm hoping like this month or next month. Hopefully, it doesn't take too long.
Yeah, or like I said, even if it's just Nintendo, I think Nintendo's gonna have a direct. Simply because of Tears of the Kingdom coming out on the horizon, and they like to bump those before the release too. This one isn't thing we have to talk about too long, and it's not totally accurate, but basically, Game Rant posted this list of the quote-unquote 10 most anticipated games, top 10 most anticipated games for 2023, but it's solely based on search data, which isn't always super indicative of anticipation, right? But I wanted to read it just for the sake of it. In number 10, this is ranging from 154,000 searches all the way up to 1.23 million searches. Number 10, we got Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, tied with Ark 2, funny enough. Number 9, we got Resident Evil 4 Remake. Number 8, Blue Protocol, which is that anime MMO that they showcased at the Game Awards. Number 7, The Day Before, which is a persistent online multiplayer zombie game that looks really interesting. 6 is Forspoken. 5 is Baldur's Gate 3, which is really interesting. 4 is Sons of the Forest, which is the sequel to that game, The Forest, that hit horror indie game that came out years ago.
Yeah, it's like a survival thing.
Yep. Number 3 is Diablo 4. Number 2 is Starfield. And guess what number 1 is?
What haven't we talked about? Or what? You already said
what
Starfield.
franchise? What's the biggest franchise that has a game coming out next year or this year? I have to use saying this year.
I mean, obviously Zelda, but we mentioned that.
You're a
Starfield.
wizard, Harry.
Oh, of course, yeah. Hogwarts Legacy. Yep.
Hogwarts Legacy. Yep. So that's that. It's not anything too crazy. Obviously, it's solely based on search results, but I do think it's cool to look at, seeing how much people are searching for things. And there's some games in here like Blue Protocol and The Day Before that I guarantee people listening to this probably have never even heard of. So just showcases the size of the gaming industry. Now, let's get to the results. Pay our penance, Dom, for what we've gotten wrong. First up, we're going to go to the Game Awards, the 2022 prediction results here. We predicted the winners of awards, and then we had our own predictions. So we're going to go through those rather swiftly. First up, most anticipated. You and I both said Starfield was going to win. Tears of the Kingdom won. Best adaptation, you and I both said Arcane. It won. Got that correct. Best multiplayer was our first split in terms of what we voted on. You thought Modern Warfare 2 was going to win. I thought Splatoon 3 was going to win. I got that right. To even my own shock and surprise. Next up, Best Action Adventure. We both said God of War Ragnarok. Guess what? We were right. Best Role-Playing Game. We both said Elden Ring. Guess what, Dom? We were right. Best Indie. This is another place where we split. You said it has to be Cult of the Lamb, right? I said, it worries me that Stray is on this list. I think it's probably going to go to Stray. It went to Stray. I got that one right.
Good call.
Best Performance. I said Man Engaged from Immortality. You said, hey, he might have won it when God of War came out. He's going to win it again. Christopher Judge with the longest speech in award show history. You got that right. Best Score in Music.
Steam Decks.
Exactly. Plenty, like 7 minutes worth. So that's what, 7 Steam Decks. Best Score in Music. We both said it has to be Elden Ring. There's no way Tsukasa Saito doesn't win this award. Bear McCurry's like, hold this. Yeah. God of War Ragnarok won. Blood Upon the Snow, I think. That song is so good.
If you're ever curious about him, look up his resume, and it is beastly. He does music for so many games and shows and all sorts of stuff. Like, that guy is busy and talented.
I mean,
obviously.
With a name like Bear McCreary, you got to be.
Yeah.
Next up, Best Art Direction. We both said Elden Ring. We were both right. Best Narrative. We both said God of War Ragnarok. We were both right. Best Game Direction. We both said Elden Ring. We were both right.
Some of these
Game
are
of
just
the
like
Year.
Fastballs down the middle.
Game of the Year was interesting listening back to it because I was like, oh yeah, for sure, Elden Ring. You were like, I think Elden Ring is going to win, but I don't. You were kind of waffling a little bit back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
You're pretty much on Elden Ring the entire time. But you're like, maybe I switch. No, you stuck with Elden Ring. We both got that right. So before we go into our predictions, I got 9 out of 12 correct, and you got 8 out of 12 correct.
Dang.
Pretty impressive for both of us.
I still can't believe that you correctly predicted that some kid would photobomb the Elden Ring award.
Talk about Bill Clinton. Yeah. Crazy. I just saw the future. Speaking of our predictions, though, Dom, your first one was trailer for Gotham Knights DLC. Nope. Dragon's Dogma 2 trailer. Nope. Alan Wake 2 release date trailer. Nope. Metroid Prime Trilogy remaster reveal. Nope. Funny enough, Jeff Grubb ended up shaving his head because he had a personal bet that if those games weren't revealed by the end of the year, he'd shave his head. And that man with that luscious, glowing head of curly hair shaved his head, which is hilarious.
Especially for someone who's so in the know to make a bet like that. I would have thought he'd be wiser, but maybe he just wanted the haircut anyway.
He's going to hate Nintendo for the rest of his life. And the one prediction you did get right, which is a bit of a softball, but hey, you got to do it sometimes. You said there's going to be a Genshin Impact trailer. You're right. There was a Genshin Impact trailer. So you got one right. Mine, Elden Ring DLC Winter Spring 2023 reveal. Nope. Civ 7 announcement. Almost, yeah.
Give you an almost because they did that, like, not full DLC, but it was before the Game Awards. They showed off that PvP arena.
And my reasoning was they did that so that way at the Game Awards they can show off the real stuff. Civ 7 announcement trailer didn't happen. Marvel Spider-Man 2 trailer didn't happen, which I'm more salty about because afterward, PlayStation, when they did that blog post that's like, hey, it's coming in fall 2023, look out for it. Lastly, not lastly, but this is the last of the incorrects. Banjo-Kazooie or Fallout New Vegas remake announced, no go. And the one I got right, Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League trailer and summer 2023 announcement. Now, I'm giving myself credit, and you can say if you want to say no. They didn't give the release date in the trailer because of the whole Kevin Conroy stuff, but they did in the press release accompanying the trailer give the actual release date, which is like June 17th. Yeah. So we both got 1 out of our 5 predictions correct, which means you finished with 9 total points, and I finished with 10 total points.
Well done.
Interesting enough, if it did come down to a tiebreaker, remember I said, will the game that takes home the most awards from the Game Awards win over under 3.5 awards? You said under.
Yeah.
Elden Ring won 4 awards. So if it was a tiebreaker, I would have won there either way. Yeah.
Man, speaking of the Suicide Squad trailer, though, on this game that we've talked about a few times and we're kind of like sort of wavering on, that trailer was absolutely badass and almost like it was a weird thing, like Kevin Conroy obviously with the monologue at the end, but like being so badass, but then also made me kind of tear up a little bit. Kind of a weird mix of emotions there because that trailer just hit on every cylinder. Hopefully the game does too. I still have some questions, but it was cool trailer.
My hope is that if there is an Injustice 3 in development, that NetherRealm was able to get him to, hopefully. But that's a weird thing with this game too, where part of me wants to play this game no matter what, solely because of the circumstances surrounding that, for better or worse. But I even like some of the other character stuff they did in this trailer, with Boomerang. Felt totally like Boomerang from the comics with the whole Flash thing where he accidentally cuts off his finger, and he's like holding him up. I thought that whole comedic bit was really funny. Yeah, I really hope that game's good, man. I really hope. DC needs a win these days. They need a win.
Oh man!
Until James Gunn announces his slate, which I can't wait for. Hey, I'm gonna take that back. We got the Batman last year. The Batman was my favorite
for sure.
My favorite superhero movie last year. And there Black Panther: Wakanda Forever came out, and I think that movie was more emotionally resonant. Huh?
You liked it even better than Black Adam?
I thought you were about to ask about Black Panther. Yeah, with Black Panther, I thought that movie was very emotionally resonant. But in terms of like a movie, I think the Batman was the best superhero movie that came out last year. So good. Anyways, let's get to our 2022 gaming predictions and see how well or poorly we did, Dom. So the way this worked last year is we had 3 categories. We had Metacritic predictions where we gave the score, and depending on how close we were to it, we got points or positive points, negative points, and everywhere in between. That was the first section. The second section was will it release, which is kind of self-explanatory. And the third one is our predictions. The first one, Metacritic predictions. There was a list of games, and I'm going to go through them, say their Metacritic, and then I'm going to say ours and what we predicted. So the first one was Horizon Forbidden West. We both, it got an 88. I said it was going to get an 87, so I was off by 1 point. You said it was going to get a 91, so you were off by 3 points. Starfield is, doesn't matter because obviously that game didn't come out. Tunic got an 88. I said 81. I got negative points. You said 78. You got negative points.
Dude, that game got 88? Holy
crap. You decided not to answer for Legends Arceus. I said 75. That game got an 83. I got negative points. Forspoken didn't count because it didn't come out. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I said 80. You said 79. That game got an 85. We both got negative points. Elden Ring, I said 87. You said 91. That game got a 94. So you didn't get you broke even. You got 0 because if it's 4 points off, nothing happens. I got negative points. Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. I said 82. You said 82. That game got an 86. So we both got broke even. Nothing.
I forget that game came out this year. Like, just kind of went in and out.
Exactly. Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga. You said 86. I said 85. That game actually got an 82. So you broke even. I got plus 1 point. And then lastly, God of War Ragnarok. I said 88. You said 90. That game got a 94. I got negative points. You broke even. After all of that, you finished in this section with negative 1 points total. I finished with negative 2 points.
Good enough.
Neither of us got a perfect score, and I got the closest one of Horizon Forbidden West since I was off by 1 point. Funny enough, Chris, his points don't count, obviously, because he's not here. He got a perfect one. He said Mario plus Rabbids was going to be an 86, and he nailed it. So he got 5 points for that, which is pretty impressive. Next up, will it release? This one was funny because it was basically yes or no. Will it release or will it not? I'm going to go through these. Starfield, we both said wouldn't release, or we both said would release. Both got that wrong. You didn't answer, or no, sorry. There's a lot of text on this sheet, so I'm getting a little confused here. Redfall, we both said would release. It didn't, so we both got that wrong. I said Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 would release. You said it wouldn't. Or no, opposite of that. Sorry. I said it wouldn't release. You said it would.
Dang.
So you got that wrong. I got it right. You didn't answer for Hollow Knight Silk Song because we had one that we could veto of like, I'm not going to do it. I decided to answer all of them, take the risk. Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. We both said that game wouldn't come out. We both got that right. And God of War Ragnarok. I said it wouldn't come out. You said it would. You got that right. I got it wrong. After all of that section, we both got 2 points. So we both broke even. And the reason we broke even is because I answered all of them. I think if you decided not to answer for Hollow Knight Silk Song, which could have tilted it to either you winning or losing that round. Next up, this one is a big one. The Big 10. These were 10 questions I asked, and we would answer them. This first one, which family of consoles will lead the most months in sales in 2022? Which one did you, now with the year over, Dom, which one do you think you answered?
Which console would lead the year in sales?
Each month for the MPD.
Each month? Wait.
Yeah, so basically at the end of the month, which console led the most months total out of the 12 months?
So which one won the most months? I must have said Switch.
We both said Switch, and we both got it right. It was actually 7-5. Switch to PlayStation 5. And they both went on big streaks. Switch led from February to July, and PlayStation led from August to November, which is really interesting.
That doesn't also. I guess there is a possibility where like one of them could have had more sales from like say June 20th to July 15th or something, but then still lost June and July because the sale. I don't know. It feels possible, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or because there's 3 consoles too, of course.
Yeah, so who knows what months Xbox might have been second, or who knows. Yeah. Next up, number 2. How many playable characters does Marvel's Avengers get in 2022? I said 2. You said 0. I nailed that on the head. They ended up getting Mighty Thor, Jane Foster in June, Winter Soldier in November. Number 3, is Pokemon Legends Arceus the only console Pokemon game launching in 2022? I said no. You said yes. I got that right. You got that wrong because obviously we got Scarlet and Violet.
That seemed like a safe bet. I mean, not only were there two, but they're both pretty good. Some caveats to that, but like really good Pokemon games. It seemed like so. Like, shout out. I mean, kudos to the Pokemon Company overall.
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever seen a beta Pokemon game come out early in the year, and then the actual, focus of the test come out the later that part of the year. Next up for this one's Void. What will the Metacritic score difference be between Starfield, PS5, and Xbox Series X? This was also before we knew it was exclusive, so obviously that wouldn't have worked. Wait, am I right about that? Starfield exclusive? It is, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I was like, did I make that up?
Yes.
So that one obviously is Void. Number 5. Of these, which gets a new trailer and or dated? I'm just going to list them, and then I'll say who got them more right or wrong because it's a long list. So remember, new trailer or a date. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, Hellblade 2, Outer Worlds 2, Star Wars Knight of the Old Republic remake, Avowed, Fable, Mass Effect 4, Dragon Age 4, Star Wars Eclipse, and Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Of all of those, the only two that got a new trailer were Mass Effect 4 and Dragon Age 4. If you remember, Mass Effect 4 got the Unreal Engine 5 trailer teaser. It was like the ship with the data coordinates and all that. And Dragon Age 4 got the quote-unquote in-game cinematic for Dragon Age Day of the Dread Wolf, which is very weird that they called it in-game because it was just like, I don't know, concept art, asset stuff. But basically, I don't want to read through them saying which one we thought was going to happen. I ended up getting 3 correct and 2 no contests. Why were they no contests? I don't know why there were no contests. You ended up getting 1, 2, 3 right in that section. So we both didn't do great. We both only got 3 right out of the 7. Next up, which WB game releases? Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, Gotham Knights, Hogwarts Legacy, or Injustice 3? You said Gotham Knights. I said Injustice 3. Obviously, I got that wrong. You got that right. This one was funny. Which will have a lower Metacritic, Babylon's Fall or Tiny Tina's Wonderland?
Oh, my.
We both said Babylon's Fall. Wasn't close. Tiny Tina's Wonderland, 78. You know what Babylon's Fall's Metacritic is?
60-something?
46.
Oh, man. That's
yeah.
rough.
Thankfully, we both got that right. It would have been more embarrassing if we both got that wrong.
Yeah.
Which studio announces its next game? Sony Bend, Naughty Dog, Bluepoint, or none? We took the bait. I said Bluepoint, which has to come at some point. You said Naughty Dog. Both got that wrong. Next up. Which will have a lower, that's not it. Highest Metacritic of 2022. PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo. This is at a point where I still thought Starfield was coming out this year. I said Starfield. Or Xbox, sorry. I said Xbox. You said PlayStation. Obviously, you got that right with God of War. I didn't. And lastly, what wins Game of the Year? You said Elden Ring. Guess what I said, Dom?
Elden Ring. No, Starfield.
Starfield, yeah. Because I was like, my reasoning, I think, in the podcast is I said if Xbox is going to have the highest Metacritic, that means Starfield needs to be the Game of the Year winner, right? For it to have a higher Metacritic than Ragnarok.
Sometimes I take those opportunities to basically choose opposite answers so that I'll only get one wrong.
You're either right or you're happy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like betting against your own team. At least if your team loses, you won money or whatever.
Exactly. It's like if you would have started Justin Fields in fantasy last week when the Lions played the Bears, right?
Yeah.
So that ends it. I finished with 7 points total in the Big Ten. You finished with 9 points total. The last part of this, Dom, predictions. Your predictions were, and here's how it worked. Every prediction after the third one, if you got it wrong, was minus 2 points total. I ended up giving 5 predictions. You ended up giving 4. Your first one, PS5 gets PS1, PS2, PS3 back compat, wrong. 2, Xbox announces streaming dongle device for xCloud Game Pass. We ended up finding out that device existed, but they canceled it. 3, Bloodborne remaster for PS5 PC. Still got to hold out hope.
I'll forever hope, yeah.
And your fourth one, Sony buys Konami. Since you got that fourth one wrong, you got minus 2 points total over the top because obviously you didn't get any of them right. Now for me, I gave 5 total, which means I could lose a total of minus 4 points from the extra 2 I had. The first one, Spartacus is PlayStation Plus rebranded, launch same name with Tears. I got that right. So I got a point from that, or 5 points, because every correct prediction was 5 points. 2, Xbox buys Moon Studios and Studio MDHR. No. And then we heard about what really is going on at Moon Studios. You remember that, of the toxic work environment. 3, Hellblade 2 Outer Worlds 2 get dated for 2023. State of Decay 3 revealed. Which is weird because I thought we already saw State of Decay 3. Maybe I meant like revealed with like gameplay. Because we saw that. Remember we saw the trailer with the lady in the woods with the dead deer like 2 years ago.
Oh yeah.
So maybe I meant like gameplay. 4, I said this: God of War, Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild 2, Hollow Knight, Silksong, and Redfall all release, and Bayonetta 3 doesn't, which is so funny because Bayonetta 3 did release, and the only one of those that releases here is God of War. So that got me minus 2 points because that was my 4th one. And announcement of Banjo-Kazooie and Viva Pinata remakes, that got me minus 2 because that was my 5th one. So I got one right, but I actually ended up with a net of 1 point with a minus 4 points. So that brings our totals to Dom, 6 points. You had a minus 1 in the first round, 9 in the second round, minus 2 in the third round. And it brings me to minus 2 in the first round, 7 in the second round, 1 in the third round, 6 points. We tie.
Well, wouldn't you know it?
And if Chris was here, he would have won. He had 8 total points. But he's not here, so he's not the winner. We are. Yeah, so it was pretty fun. Like I said, next week we're going to be doing our predictions for next year and doing our Fantasy Critics League. We're also going to be recording the God of War Ragnarok spoiler cast, which I'm excited for. I don't want to talk about that too much because I finished it over winter break. The things I did want to mention is I'm currently almost done with High on Life. There's like 8 main bosses in the game, and I'm 6 through. Really cool. If you love Rick and Morty or Justin Roiland's humor at all, it's really funny. I don't think the gameplay is anything like astronomically inventive, but the idea of having talking guns for comedic effect is hilarious. Each of them have their own voice actor. They're each very different in terms of their personality.
And they look ridiculous in a funny way.
Yeah, I do like, there's a lot of Metroidvania elements of you can't unlock certain areas until you get the gun that allows you to do so. So I'm having fun with it. I think it'll probably end up being in my Game of the Year top 10. I don't know how high or how low, but I am enjoying it. And the other game I wanted to mention is Pentiment, which I'm also probably like 40% of the way through. Really good dialogue. The writing is phenomenal, which isn't surprising. Though the gameplay isn't super engaging in terms of you doing anything crazy, I do think it keeps your attention enough with small little mini game type things where it teaches you a small little mechanic for a brief moment. The characters are really interesting, especially for the time period where it can be very dull and boring. The art style is one of my favorite art styles in video games. It's incredible. I was telling you this before we started recording, of like the trailer is beautiful, but when you actually get in there and you're playing like on monitor or TV, Dom, and the subtle animations of the characters and everything, it's so good. Also, one of my favorite things in games, there's an achievement for petting 5 pets in the game, which is always great.
Always
Rewards
a good trophy.
you for that.
Yeah.
Yep. The story is way more engaging than I thought. So going in, I didn't know what it was about, and it turns out I knew it was a murder mystery, but I didn't know the specifics. But it turns out there's a lot going on between the Abbey and the community, and there's like a divisive nature of blasphemy, and is the church taking advantage of the people and the taxing and all that stuff. It's really good. I'm really surprised at how engaging it is, and I'm excited to get back to it. And I suggest anybody who, if you're the threshold of getting into a game, if you're not worried about reading a lot, I think you should totally be into it. It's much more than just a text-based game like Citizen Sleeper. I think Citizen Sleeper is a harder game for people to play who aren't avid readers because there isn't a whole lot of motion in that game. It's mostly reading, whereas this is a little bit more interactive than that. But yeah, I'm having a blast with it, and I think it'll definitely be on my top 10. And unlike High on Life, where I don't know in the range where it'll end up by the time I'm finished with it, I wouldn't be surprised if this is near the top with some of the other greats I play this year, like Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok. Totally different game, but man, is it just such a well crafted experience. And I love Game Pass because without Game Pass, I don't know if this game exists. Like a smaller project that they can put out in a year and a half, 2 years from an accomplished game director. So
I've been like trying to get organized on what were my favorite games from 2022, and of course I had the problem where I played a bunch of games that were from previous years. But
you say problem, it's not a problem.
but yeah, my problem in like makes the game of the year discussions a little more challenging because the other side of it is there were so many good games that came out last year, and so many that I didn't get a chance to get around to. Yeah, Pentiment was one of them. High on Life that you've been talking about, and Tinykin that you talked about before. I don't know. I was just going through and realizing, wow, there's a bunch of stuff I missed because I was so busy playing, RPGs from 2001. But KOTOR was a great game. I'll stand behind that. But yeah, there's so many like, smaller quote unquote games or whatever. Maybe not the giant blockbuster games, but so many of those. A lot of them coming through on Game Pass, and Rogue Legacy 2 came out, and I never got a chance to play that. So many things that just get added to the backlog, and maybe before I die, I'll get to some of them.
Well, I'm hoping to finish one of these two games. I'm hoping to finish both of them this week. And with the NFL season ending too, I'm going to have much more weekend time, which is good to play games because I'm always focused on watching football, especially like when it's college and NFL. It's like my whole weekend's gone because I just love watching everything. Chained Echoes is another game I want to get to. It's also on Game Pass, which is a turn-based RPG that's getting a lot of love, made by one guy, which is always super impressive. And then other than that, I wanted to mention I'm catching up on 2022 movies as well.
Yeah.
And in the last 2 days, I watched Glass Onion, which I really enjoyed. I really loved Knives Out. I'm a huge Rian Johnson fan. Last Jedi is one of my favorite Star Wars films. So I really enjoyed Glass Onion. I don't think it's as good as Knives Out, but I still think it was a fun time. The hate that movie got was weird. People were like, the first half doesn't even matter. Why is it even in there based on the second half of the movie? I'm like, you're an idiot. You don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah. My favorite was like the Ben Shapiro take of like, you don't even find out what the real mystery is until halfway through or something like that. I'm like, what? But yeah, that's why it's a mystery. I don't know. It was a weird. Some people's complaints.
My favorite take by Ben Shapiro is when he said, I don't know why people are worried about having houses on the coast. If something bad happens like a flood, you could just sell your house. To who, Ben Shapiro? Who are you going to sell your house to?
Sell your flooded house, yeah.
Exactly. Anyways, that's enough about Ben Shapiro. Nope, I watched as well.
Oh, yeah.
Which was also a movie that got pretty divisive responses, and I haven't seen Us yet. Obviously, I loved Get Out. I haven't seen Us yet. I really like Nope, but I am a sucker for a good sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
And I do think, and I hate to say this kind of stuff because you end up sounding like highfalutin, like snobby, but I do think Nope is one of those movies that like you're probably not gonna like it if you don't understand like the thematic elements and everything. I know a lot of people are like, how come there was a whole bit about the kid and the monkey and everything, not really realizing like that whole relationship is kind of parallel to the relationship between the alien and yeah.
If that went over your head, then I'm sorry. Then I don't want to. I'll sound really mean if I continue that sentence, but yeah, that was an obvious. To me, it was such a simple, clear thing what it was trying to say.
Very simple. Yes.
So much so that I actually thought I liked this one better than Us, which where the messaging I thought was a little bit more obtuse and kind of, or the metaphors and some of that stuff. It was just a little more abstract. Whereas Nope, I felt like was just so clear and obvious with what it was saying, and like, and it's a sci-fi movie, and it just, I don't know, it felt like it was easier to understand what was going on and what it was trying to say. Plus, another really good twist for Nope. Yeah, I just watched it like last week. I really loved it.
Especially for a generation of people that are growing up and living in the content creator era, it's like, how do you miss the messaging of that entire movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Keke Palmer needs to be in the MCU.
Dude,
like yesterday. God, she's so good.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I want her to be
who she
Storm
was,
if they go with the younger version of that character, but I just want her in the MCU. People want her to play like Kitty Pryde or Rogue, which I think would be sick too. I just want her in the MCU. She's awesome.
Because my mind like immediately. So the first scene she does in the movie is that presentation.
The pitch,
the director and all the people on the movie set or whatever. And then as soon as they leave and she starts talking to just her brother, and you see how her voice changes, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's what people like me don't have to do ever. I could just talk the same way to anyone, minus some
Exactly. You have to
profanity.
put on your
Yeah, exactly.
your
I
uh
have to put on a fake
your white
face.
voice for better or worse. Yeah,
Exactly, a white voice. Yeah.
unfortunately.
But she killed that,
The
and
other
then
thing,
the rest of the movie too. She was funny.
Glass Onion, by the way, Dave Bautista continues to be such a good actor. And
Cracked me
also
up
the
so
thing
much.
I loved is Ryan Johnson is really good at subtly conveying his characters through just like set design or like costume design. Shout out
Yeah,
to whoever the costume designer was on Glass Onion. Like the moment you see them with their different how they approach wearing masks is so good and it fits them so perfectly too. Like the politician is like haphazardly wearing it, and then when she's like presented by somebody who she feels is more like intelligent than she is, the detective, she like fixes it. Obviously, what's her name's character has the one that doesn't even cover your mouth. The scientist has like
yeah.
the N95 mask. It's so good. I loved it. The movie is awesome.
My favorite thing. He took just the biggest shot. I feel like when goodness, I can't. The blonde woman. What is her actress's name? I know it. Kate Hudson.
I want to say
Is
Gwyneth
like
Paltrow, but I don't think that's right.
no, Kate Hudson, not Kate.
Kate
Okay, now
Hudson.
I
There you go.
mix
Yeah.
them up. But anyway, she's just the over the top, always getting canceled type of famous person or whatever. And she says to Daniel Craig, like, "I just tell the truth, even if it hurts," or something along those lines. Which is just like
Oh
I
yeah.
roll my eyes because so many people in real life say that, and he just replies with like, maybe don't confuse speaking the truth with speaking without thought. That could be dangerous, or something along those lines." And it just like,
It was such a good
oof,
line, man. I was
yeah,
like, oh, this is so good. And like the
so
whole fact
relevant.
that in retrospect, the main character Miles, I won't say Miles Bridges, but I think that's the Death Stranding character, whatever the hell, Miles Brand or whatever, is such like an allegory for Elon Musk. But this movie was made before the whole Musk Twitter thing too. But it's just like, yeah, well, billionaires are like that. It's not that hard to do.
Just for
Um,
most billionaires, or many of them, I guess.
yeah. Or
Think
I
they're
love when
changing the
they're
world.
going up and the locals like, piece of shit, and they're like, what are you trying to say? He's like just saying piece of shit about the doc. Remember at the beginning, he's like,
Oh
what is
yeah.
this? And he's like, piece of shit. And he's like, what?
Okay.
It's so good. Anyways, that's my I'm trying to catch up on movies from last year. I still got a bunch that I want to tackle. Everything Everywhere All at Once I still haven't seen, which is on my
Me
list.
either.
A ton of things I want to get to. Any gaming stuff before we head out? I mentioned the two I've been playing. Do you have anything you want to talk about?
Obviously, God of War, but we're saving that. I did play a bunch of Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga finally, and that's exactly what you expect it to be, and it's a great time, especially for Star Wars fans specifically. So, I mean, there's not much extra I can say except the one thing that got me or shocked me was just like how good it looks, like, graphically.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
it looks amazing.
How good can
Even
Legos look, really? Man, you don't even know.
it's so weird, yeah, because like it's hard to explain. Like even the Legos themselves look really good, but then even the scenery is incredible. And the gameplay is um, way more in depth than previous Lego games from my memory at least. But it's still like pretty easy to pick up, and I like that though. Like that's nice to have sometimes something that's just super easy going that you can just lean back and just enjoy some Star Wars movies in Lego form. Pretty fun.
It's nice
A
to have a
bunch of
family game that isn't made by Nintendo too.
yeah,
Not
good
that those are
point.
bad. It's just it's nice to have different choices.
Um, and I wanted to bring up too. Throughout the year, really, I've been playing Mario Kart again with those. I've had I think
Oh hell yeah!
3 or 4 DLC drops, as well, and those have all been really cool. I wish. So basically, each DLC adds 4 or 8 courses. Can't remember, but it never feels substantial enough. It's kind of like it gets you back into play, but then there's only a handful of new courses, and that's it. So it doesn't. Each one doesn't do quite enough. So we kind of like just played through each of the courses a few times, and then set it down for the evening, and that's it for each DLC drop. But now it's like half of the DLC is already out for the season pass or whatever they called it. So we're gonna kind of go back through and get into it a little bit more because I wish that they had consolidated these drops. Is my only complaint. But yeah,
But
so
if they did, Dom, they couldn't stretch out the time until they need to make a new one.
yeah, exactly. We all know the reason, but But the game is so good, so it's so like fundamentally a pretty close to perfect game. So it's hard to complain too much, I guess. Yeah, a lot of fun with that. I feel like, oh, and I already mentioned, I also just I'm like halfway through Knights of the Old Republic 2. So having a great time with that. I think I mentioned earlier, it's very, very, so rather the first Knights of the Old Republic made by BioWare, the second one made by Obsidian, and you can definitely see the Obsidian in the second game. Feels even more like a Fallout game, like a New Vegas than the first one did, and really loving all the like creative Star Wars shit in these games that it feels like we don't, with like a lot of the newer Disney stuff, we're not exploring too much new planets and species and concepts and technologies in Star Wars. We're going to a lot of the same places a lot of the time. So with Knights of the Old Republic games, it's kind of like we're going so far in the past, and like there's clearly not that many rules for canon as there are now. So it just feels like a little bit more free and interesting in that way. So I wanted to point that out too. But really great games overall.
And that's the weird monkey's paw situation with Star Wars Eclipse, is that one seems to be going to have the newest stuff in it for Star Wars, but it's also Quantic Dream, which is tied up in that. It's like,
and that's what annoys me, because I'm so excited about that specifically. Like, it's going to a different era, it's going backwards quite a ways, but then it's like, Quantic Dream. Like, here I am, like, not saying too much, but still poking fun at Hogwarts Legacy and the people that. I don't blame anyone if they want to still buy it. I'm not going to hold it against anyone myself. But it does. I hate that conflicting feeling of.
It's always like, am I the hypocrite? It's one of those.
Are we the baddies? Like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It is what it is, though, man. It's not black and white. It's a lot of gray area of figuring all that stuff out, and I don't think anybody should be held liable or in contempt for choosing to buy and play either of those games. Who knows? By the time Eclipse comes out, Quantic Dream might be an entirely different studio by that point too. We never know. Yeah. Anyways, that's it for this week's show. Thank you guys for listening to our 2022 game prediction results and Game Awards 2022 results. Like I said, next week the plan is to do our Fantasy Critics League draft. We'll first go over last year's, then do our draft, then do our predictions for next year. So that's going to be a fun time. And we're going to be doing a God of War Ragnarok spoiler cast by the end of the month. We're going to be doing our Game of the Year for 2022 show by the end of the month. A lot of stuff on the horizon. Can't wait. It's going to be a good year. You excited for this year, Dom, in terms of gaming and everything?
There's so much this year, yeah. I mean, a lot of it is because stuff that got delayed out of last year. Because remember, last year was teeing up to be Starfield, God of War Ragnarok, and Breath of the Wild 2, all in the same year. Obviously, 2 of those got delayed, but it just continues, and there's so much in 2023 that I'm just hyped for.
Hey, man, this year can be Starfield, Breath of the Wild 2, and Marvel Spider-Man 2. So we get to look forward to it. Yeah.
So much.
And Hollow Knight Silksong, so many good stuff. Anyways, individually, you can follow us on Twitter for as long as that exists. I'm at Jerrad Wyche, JerradWyche. Dom is at ObDomKenobi. The number 0, not the letter O in Obi. Collectively, you can follow us at CTRLINT. It's Controlled Interest abbreviated. I'm trying to be a little bit more engaging with our tweets this year. Trying to be a little bit more lively with them and have them up. It's hard, man, because I don't tweet as much, even on my own personal account, but I want to try to tweet more on our Controlled Interest account. So I'm going to try to make that work. No promises, though. On YouTube, you can find us at Controlled Interest. We'll pop right up, subscribe so you never miss a show. Hit the bell notification because you can't trust the sub box. Like the video, leave a comment, all that good stuff. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave us a comment. Let us know what game you're currently excited for, whether it's dated or not. Podcast services, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of that stuff. Just search Controlled Interest, and we'll pop right up. Until next time, we will catch you guys later.